7. The price of oil has been around $90 a barrel, while gas is down 57 days in a row. AAA's national average for regular is now $4.01 per gallon, $1 less than the record high, still 82 cents more than a year ago. The House is still considering what Democrats call the Inflation Reduction Act, without any support from Republicans who claim it will increase prices. And the tax hike on some corporations will be passed on to consumers. The bill would give the IRS a big increase in funding to hire 87,000 more agents to conduct more audits.
Americans who earn less than, say, $75,000 a year are slated to receive 60% of the additional tax audits expected under the Democrats' spending package. That, according to analysis released by House Republicans. The analysis, which is a conservative estimate based upon recent audit rates and tax data, shows individuals with an annual income of 75 G's or less would be subject to more than 700,000 additional IRS audits.
That's Fox's Kevin Cork. 3 golfers who teed up a lawsuit end up out of bounds.
Taylor Gooch, Matt Jones, and Hudson Swafford were suspended by the PGA Tour when they joined the Saudi Arabian-backed Live Golf Series, but they hoped a court would allow them to compete in the PGA's postseason starting this week in Memphis. In denying their request, U.S. District Judge Beth Lapson Freeman said the players did not suffer irreparable harm because of the money they received to join Live Golf. Gooch, Jones, and Swafford are also part of a group of 11 Live golfers who filed an antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour last week.
That's Eric Messersmith. I'm Dave Anthony, and this is Fox News.
WPTV's First Alert Weather on WSTU is brought to you by Sailfish Roofing, offering excellence, honesty, and integrity in everything they do. Sailfish Roofing, 772-263-ROOF. Community roofing company you can trust. Sailfish Roofing. Now here's WPTV's First Alert meteorologist.
Your WPTV First Alert forecast. This afternoon, highs in the low 90s, heat indices in the triple digits. Hazy sunshine once again with some of that Saharan dust lingering and low rain chances. Tonight, lows in the upper 70s to low 80s, and we're mainly dry into the overnight hours. Tomorrow and Friday, similar weather conditions, staying hot, humid, and hazy with highs climbing into the low 90s, but feeling like the triple digits. For the weekend, staying hot and humid, highs in the low 90s with some afternoon showers and storms. I'm WPTV First Alert meteorologist Katya Hall for WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.
You are listening to WSTU, Stewart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Welcome back and happy Wednesday. We continue on with our Meet Your Candidate series. Just 3 more candidates are going to be in the studio, and today I have 2 of them. We're going to start the first half hour out with Doc Collins. How are you doing, Doc?
I'm doing amazing. It's fantastic to be here.
Oh, I appreciate you coming into the studio and gives the listeners a chance to know you a little bit better in a different environment. But before we go into why you're running for Stewart and a little bit about your background, I want to thank my sponsors and also remind everybody you can sign up on my website, thecaseyingramshow.com. And every week I email out who the guest will be in the studio, so you have an advance notice and can tune in. COVID, unexpected expenses, and illnesses. There are many issues that can cause your successful business to slump deep into the red. We are here to help, and we only get paid if we provide you a workout. Debt restructuring is complicated. We are the negotiator between you and your creditors. Commercial Mortgage has been in the industry of small balance corporate finance since 2003. Our focus is on challenging corporate foreclosures, debt restructures, equity, and new debt solutions. These issues are often not easy to see or understand when you run a business and are faced with multifaceted debt challenges that include legal actions on various fronts. That's where we come in. We never charge a front fee or deposit, and we're only paid if we successfully provide you a debt workout. Areas of expertise include hotels, marinas, office buildings, restaurants, apartments, multifamily, condos, golf courses, home builders, land development, including new and repurposed developments. Call Commercial Mortgage, LLC at 772-872-6099 or visit them online, commercialmortgage.com. commercialmortgagellc.com. Also want to remind everybody it is hurricane season, and please, if you haven't done so, get some safe harborage. Make your reservation just in case a hurricane is named. Once they're named, it's almost impossible to find a place to store your boat in this town, and one of the best places to do that is Indiantown Marina. It's one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities. It's located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway. Very well protected. And also, it's a do-it-yourself or full-service boat yard. So any kind of work you need done, you can call the good folks up at Indiantown Marina, 772-631-3272, and ask about either hurricane storage or service for your boat. And finally, don't forget about heading down to the best-kept secret in Martin County, and that's the Fish House Art Center. FishHouseArtCenter.com. You can look them up online before you head down, but all kinds of things are happening down there. They are doing some renovations right now, but it is still open. They have an Airbnb, art gallery, boat charters, marina, craft and creamery, craft beers, wine, 24 flavors of ice cream, just literally something for the whole family. So head on down to the pocket at the Fish House Art Center. All right, Doc, now that we have the sponsors out of the way, it's time to meet Christopher Doc Collins. He's running for Group 3 for City of Stewart Commission. Christopher graduated from Martin County High School in 2002. After receiving his bachelor's degree from the University of Central Florida, he continued on to receive his Doctor of Chiropractic degree from Palmer College in Port Orange, Florida, and was licensed as a chiropractic physician in 2011. Christopher has spent time in Costa Rica, Hawaii, and Italy, but knew Stewart was where he wanted to raise a family. So he opened his practice on Osceola Street in downtown Stewart, where he has been serving residents for the past 10 years. Christopher is an avid surfer and spends his free time with his wife and 3 small children at the beach and on the water. Beyond chiropractic, his hobbies include urban farming and edible landscape, teaching others to grow food at home as part of a healthier lifestyle. Christopher's parents relocated to Stewart from Miami Lakes in the 1990s due to urbanization, traffic, and crime. His family witnessed firsthand how high density destroys a town, and they chose Stewart for its seaside charm, water focus, and reluctance to overdevelop. Christopher initially started attending city meetings when the LPA proposed to rezone 3 blocks of his street on Flamingo Avenue to higher density. During successive meetings, he noticed a pattern of rezoning projects to high density. Resident voices were being ignored and a lack of critical thinking for the traffic implications of what was being approved. Something needed to change. Christopher decided to run against merit after being disappointed with his record of voting for 2,400 units of new development the last 4 years.
Got it.
Doc Collins, that says a lot right there, but
It does.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I mean, this tells us that why you're running, but what else? What was the impetus? Why you not see what happens, or maybe just speak up at the
last 4 years have
meetings?
just been so uncharacteristic, in my opinion, of what this place is and why people choose to live in Stewart. And I couldn't do another 4 years going in that direction. So a lot of us, and going door to door, I see it a lot. There was a lot of us that were disappointed with how Mike Meyer and Merritt have voted and what has been approved in the last 4 years. So.
With some of those projects, you talked about 2,400 housing units. With those projects, are there some that you see that they could have voted no for? I mean, were there projects that they really didn't have a choice because it's already zoned? What do you do in those those instances? How are you evaluating the projects?
So without getting too deep into the weeds with each individual project, I think the problem is a larger philosophy of what type of housing we need in Stewart. So when we're looking at what has been approved, you need to almost take a step back and look at what was that property before it became high-density apartments. Well, what we've noticed in the last 4 years is a culture in the City Commission that has moved towards rezoning of what would otherwise be commercial to high-density apartments. And as a general philosophy, I think we should move back towards straighter zoning. We go through a planned unit development process with these projects, but it's gotten to a point now where everything that is built are these giant planned unit development 4-story box, apartments. And we've really lost any new development of single-family homes where, you can have the green space as a yard. So.
Again, we're speaking with Doc Collins. He is running for the City of Stewart Commission in Group 3. You're running against the incumbent, Merritt Matheson.
Yeah.
As you talk about development, and we have such an influx of folks that are moving here from not only up north, but down south. They're coming up from Miami.
You bet.
What is your vision for Stewart for housing?
So that is I'll use that as a segue to talk about the unintended consequence of trying to solve affordable housing with density. So once you create that new apartment, right, you bring that into existence, it is now up for grabs, right? You have people from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and if you drive by, for instance, like Harbor Grove, the ones off of Indian that look like dorms.
Right.
You look at the tags, and you're going to see a lot of tags of people who are not from here, because we forget that as much as we're looking for what we consider affordable for locals here, $2,500 a month for a 2-2, $1,900 a month, and these are the cheap ones. Harbor Grove are the cheaper of what's
continues to go up,
and it's going up. That is cheap if you're from New York or Connecticut
right.
or even Fort Lauderdale. These are cheap units. They have no problem, and they're used to higher density.
Right.
So they will occupy those, and that's what you're seeing. Who's renting those units? Not necessarily the people who are local, the residents.
How do we get affordable housing for local residents?
That is the question. That has been the long battle. It's not just this election. It's been going on since the 70s. That's been the war. Is everybody wants clean water, and there's always the drive for affordable housing. We could talk about a lot of different possibilities, but I will say that we have learned the lesson over the last 4 years, like I said, that you cannot fix affordable housing with new development.
Just providing more.
The cost of construction is too high. There's too much demand here. If you create that unit with new construction and that goes on the market, it is up for grabs, and you can't control. In Florida, the state will not let you do rent control. So the price of that unit's going to be whatever the market
supply
determines.
and demand.
And yep, it's going to go high. So we could talk about things like accessory dwelling units. Generally, I would say, I think this is pretty common sense, is if you want more affordable housing, you need to look into more established neighborhoods with older construction, right? So I live on Flamingo, and that Dolphin Basin, my house was built in the 60s.
Right.
So when we got into that house, we've slowly made it nicer and how we like it. But I think that's the direction we need to be looking at more than having developers come in and build these, massive projects that have these other unintended consequences. Not, you can't just get myopic and talk about affordable housing. What's the impact on the river?
100%.
I'm going to use Bridgeview as an example of this. It's the one at the base of the Veterans Memorial Bridge on Canner, across from the newer hospital. That is on the water.
Yes.
212 units are on the water. I don't care how great our engineering is. You can't tell me that all those cars and all of that runoff is not going to negatively impact our estuary. And I think it's disingenuous for anybody to assert otherwise. Traffic, right? Our little beach town does not have the traffic infrastructure of a West Palm Beach or a Delray, who, it seems like we're trying to model now with this newer culture of how we develop. Unless you want US 1 to be a parking lot, you need to backtrack, and that's one of my main points in the campaign, is you need to reverse engineer the kind of traffic flow you want to have on US 1, right? The way the bridges are set up, you have to go basically through downtown Stewart to go north-south, right?
That's right, you do.
So, in talking to, there's sort of two philosophies at war right now. When I talk to, I'll say the other side, I want downtown Stewart to be drivable. I want you to be able to drive into downtown Stewart, go to a restaurant. My office is on Osceola, right?
Okay.
So
you're downtown.
I want the older demographic who's going to come to me and seek care to be able to pull into my parking lot behind my little cottage practice and be able to walk in. I don't want them to have to be in a parking garage that's streets over and take a tram in August and sit in a parking garage. I think it's a little bit short-sighted and not respecting where we live and the demographic of who lives here to say that, like the other side proposes, downtown Stewart's going to be walkable only. That, to me, is not appropriate we're not Portland, we're not San Francisco, we're not New York. We don't want to be.
Right.
Stewart is what it is, and it's awesome, and we should build on what it is and not try to terraform it into something different and try to bring a new demographic of people into this place in terms of age, which has been the pitch when I talk. Well, what about who lives here? Well, we just need younger people here. What?
But we have to address who's here.
What is this place and who lives here,
Right.
and how can we just make it nicer, make it better?
As
Not overdeveloped.
As you're talking, I can't help but think about the old movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will
Right.
come.
Right.
So we've seen a lot of that here.
Yes.
Let me talk a little bit too.
Sure.
As you just spoke about the project down on
Bridgeview?
Yes, Bridgeview. That's off
I
of
guess it'll be called
Indian
Indigo
and Canner.
technically, but it's
Okay.
Bridgeview is the project.
That project was annexed into the city of Stewart. So how do you feel about the properties being annexed into Stewart?
So the property owner has rights. If they want to annex in, we're not forcing annexation, but I will say we make it so attractive for you to want to annex in, right?
Right.
Without getting too deep
There's a
into all the
reason.
details, right?
No, there's a reason
they want
It's-
to annex.
I'll say it. It's typically easier to work with the city than the county.
More than that. More than that. If you're a developer, right? If you're looking at the county, you're going to get just on the front end half of the density, right? And these rental apartments are incredibly profitable. That's why you see them attached to things. And however you feel about Costco, that was the money maker in the Costco project, were the 380 apartments.
Right.
Bridgeview's got 212. Harbor Grove has 350 or whatever it is. All these projects are incredibly lucrative, right? So if you're in the county, off the bat, you're looking at half the density, right? Let's say,
It's
just
a
for an
big
example,
difference.
let's just say for residential, you have 8 units in the county versus 15 in the city. Now, the city lets you go through a planned unit development process, and they'll even bump that up to 29 units per acre. And not to get too in the weeds, but I think this is a good point, so people
Right.
understand what's been going on and why they're looking at these 4-story boxes, right?
Right.
So you go from now 8 units per acre to 29. Well, a good example of even the next layer of density is the Elizabeth. So across from the courthouse, those two, I think that used to be the old Stewart News there. Those
Oh.
2 lots are, I might be wrong, but
I think that's a bank over there in,
right now
in
it's
that
empty,
area. Okay.
right? But across from the courthouse, you're looking at what will be the Elizabeth.
Okay.
There's something like 50 apartments. They're going to go on that tiny little area. And it's because we are using new math for what we determined to be a unit as of July 14th, 2020.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's very interesting.
It's amazing. If you're not a fan of high density in Stewart, this will make your head explode. But as of July 14th, 2020, and the Elizabeth is the first project I'm aware of that does this. Now, instead of 29 units per acre, if your unit is counted as a half unit, let's say it's under 900 square feet, an apartment, that apartment is no longer a unit, right? Even though a person or multiple people and cars will be a part of
It's
that
an entire
unit,
apartment, a
it's an
single
apartment.
family
Now it's
living
considered
there.
a half unit when we're talking about the density allowance for that project. So you can have 29 units on paper, but have 50 to 60 apartments.
Because they're all 900 square feet or less.
And that's the next layer. So think about it. If you're a property developer, and this is in the urban core, right? Which
Right,
makes
right.
even less sense to me that you would take the most difficult area to park and have traffic and make it the most dense in terms of, but yeah. So you go from 8 units per acre potentially to now 50 to 60. What developer in their right mind wouldn't want to have that difference in rent?
That's right. That's
So you have to
double
make
the
it
rent.
more attractive by going straighter zoning. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have multifamily. And I know I'm getting detailed here.
No, that's okay. I
Is it
think
okay?
people want to hear that. I think people want to hear that.
Okay,
This is
so
one
let's
of
say
the
you have
biggest issues.
multifamily, R3. You should have historically a good example of this is Sailfish Cave. So not Cove. Cove is the ones on the river right there
Yes.
by Riverwalk.
Yes.
Which that's another project. That's amazing. But in Sailfish Cave, they historically were multifamily. Not they, the property
Okay.
that they have, up to 10 units per acre, right? It since became commercial or a church. It was vacant, and their recent appeal has been, hey, it used to be multifamily in the 80s. Can we be that now? Can we
Okay,
get that?
okay,
Can
they
we
wanna
put
go back.
townhouses here? And
Okay.
what we're talking about is kind of across from Town Park and Seaside on
Okay.
Central, yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, right. So you have a decent precedent for, okay, you were multifamily, but if you look at what was proposed, they're not proposing that 7 to 10 units per acre that was associated with multifamily because we're going through a planned unit development process. They want to get 60 apartments on that 4.8 acres.
Okay. All right.
So if you're going to approve that, right, let's just go back to, we can do that planned unit process. We can put townhomes there, especially with your precedent, but we need to be in that 7 to 10 max units per acre. And then we don't need narrower setbacks and narrower sidewalks and all of these different
Issues that come with it.
With all of the variances, it will very much make sense if that's what it was zoned for. You know what I mean? So straighter
does.
versus
And I had another candidate on in another race. It was Mark Breckbell, and he had mentioned the parking with the is it the
Elizabeth?
Yeah,
is
the Elizabeth
madness,
as
yes.
well, because
Like you have half of it including on-street parking. I don't know how that got approved, but
it's
won't
just
be too
but there's
judgy.
issues people need to think about as these things are being approved.
But if your philosophy is that the downtown is going to be all walkable, it doesn't matter what the parking looks like, and that's why it doesn't make any sense.
So that brings you to the point. That's how it's approved.
That's
if the
why you're
parking
saying what you're
doesn't
saying.
matter.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit. One thing that your candidate or your opponent has a strong track record on is the
Sure.
river and the
Absolutely.
water issue.
Yep.
So where do you stand? What would you do for advocating for the river? And
Yes.
Stewart's done a lot of things already, but
So I'm
there's
not
always
just
more to
saying
be
this
done.
because I'm campaigning, right?
Right.
I genuinely want to pick up where he left off, and all respect to him for the open conversation he's had with Army Corps, South Florida Water Management. I really want to jump in there and be that and more, because we need to have Army Corps makes the call. All right. So at the end of the
Yes.
day, we need to be friends with them.
Right.
They need to know our interests. For me personally, I like the direction Brian Mast has been going when we're talking about including the health of, on either coast, residents. When
Very
we're talking
important.
about discharges. Microcystins, the toxins that are released by blue-green algae as it goes into
Yes.
apoptosis, when it hits this saltwater estuary, that's a big deal. I see it in the office, and especially back when
Right.
it was really bad.
Mm.
People are getting the sinus stuff. They're having a lot of issues, brain fog. But if you look at the list of awful that comes from microcystins, and so I like Brian Mast talking about the lake level going into summer, which we're in a good spot right now. We're at like 12.5 feet because it's been so dry.
Right. We've been very fortunate last couple of years.
Yeah, we have. But going in that direction of, hey, Army Corps, can we also factor in, along with navigability and the ability for big ag to back pump and have that water for their performance levels how they want it? Can we also include in your decision making the human health of the people in a greater way? So when you look on LOSUM and you look at some of their points of what they're factoring in, you get that little tiny little
Right.
box of human health versus all of these other boxes. So I would like to see and be a voice for, I guess as a chiropractor too, the human health side of it, and that being factored in.
Very, very important. And I know
Yes.
you have 3 children, and
Oh, yeah.
I always think about that too, with these kids growing up around these
I want
green
my kids
blue
to surf
algae.
in clean water,
Yes.
man. I
Yes.
want us all. If we lose
So
our
important.
river, it's over for us.
It is. It's
If we
truly
don't
our
have clean
lifeblood.
water, this city's done.
I could not agree
100%.
more. Another big issue that we're dealing with right now on Confusion Corner is the train coming through.
Yes.
I don't even know what that's going to do when that starts coming through Confusion Corner, because that's called Confusion Corner long before
Yeah, when
the
it's
train
ripping
was
through at
double
80 miles
tracked.
an hour.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
And everybody's really concerned.
And
for
that,
sure.
that and the bridge.
Yep.
So, what do you see as a commissioner that you can do to alleviate
It's
any of
in
these
a way
issues?
very similar to the river with Army Corps, right? We're at the mercy of Brightline. We're at the mercy of East Coast Railroad. Like we need to have a voice there and try to mitigate what's coming as much as we can. Personally, I know this is a contentious issue. I don't want to see it stop here. I know that's a lot of people, are back and forth. I'll make enemies by saying that probably, but
Not one here.
I would like to see potentially having Stewart be a quiet zone. I know that's something that's contentious too, but at least where we're coming through here slower. I'm scared to death of, these trains ripping through here. I don't live on the tracks, but there's a lot of families, especially through East Stewart, where your kids could be playing right over there. You got a train coming through at 100 miles an hour. That is so horrifying. And
It's crazy. Again, we're speaking with Christopher Doc Collins. He's running for Group 3 on the City of Stewart Commission. You can look him up online at docforstewart.com. I have to talk about the train just one more second, and that is, you're absolutely right. People want the train silent, so quiet zones, but then they're also having discussions down south, just what you're saying as well. These things are going so fast, you do not hear them coming.
Right.
So having them quiet, a lot of people just don't realize it until it's too late. And, everybody says stay off the tracks. That's the obvious thing. But yet
but
people aren't used to it.
right.
Yeah, kids aren't used to it. People aren't used to it. They're used to old rumbling freight trains. So
Yep.
it's going to be a super tough thing. So it's
We
going to
just
be
need
a
try
hard
to,
decision.
like I said, mitigate the damage as much as we can and have a voice.
All right, Doc. So if you're elected, we only got a couple minutes left here, but what are your top 3 priorities?
Generally, I want to keep Stewart small town. Owners of property have rights, but we don't have to they don't have the right to go from commercial to rezoning to these high density apartment boxes. The more I talk to people, I'm even more jazzed up that we're all on the same page. We all want clean water, and we love this small town. Let's make it nicer. We don't have to make it big. We don't have to make it Delray or Broward. It's awesome with what it is, and I beg you, if you are on the same page, please vote, because I am up against the incumbent, and he's a good guy, but he's made some bad decisions, in my opinion, and taken us away from the direction we should have been going.
And I bet you've been out shaking a lot of hands. And
I love it.
Meet and greet.
Yeah. We're all on the same page.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned something, folks. August 23,
Yep.
all of the races in Martin County will be decided on August 23. Do not wait for November. It will be too late.
Yes.
Make sure you get out and vote.
If you
Early
want a
voting
small town,
starting.
you better vote.
Yes.
You better vote.
Yep. Make sure you vote. So very exciting. Any meet and greets coming up that you want to shout out?
No, I'm
No.
just kicking doors.
You're just out
That's
kicking
it.
doors. And do you
I'm
have your
having a
helpers
blast.
with you?
No.
No,
That's
just
me. My wife's
just-
got 3 little kids to raise, so,
So-
I am my campaign.
You are the
Yeah,
campaign.
that's right.
Again, docforstewart.com. Christopher.Collins, he's running for Group 3 here in the City of Stewart Commission. And Chris, it's been a pleasure to talk
Absolutely.
with you today.
If
And
anybody has any questions, I have a contact form on that website. Please message me. I'm happy to.
reach out to you.
Yeah.
Do you have
Clarify.
Facebook as well?
Yes,
Okay.
Facebook, Doc for Stewart. Yeah.
Doc for Stewart. There we go. docforstewart.com.
Thank you, Casey.
It's always a pleasure. Good luck to you. Again,
Thank you.
folks, please vote
Please
August
vote.
23.
Please vote.
So very
This is a
important.
big one.
It is a big one.
This is a big one.
We have Will Laughlin in next at 10:30.